And we're recording. Hello, everyone. It's October 8th. This is Class 7 from L601 Add-on Gardner-Webb. I'm Robin Hamilton. And Dr. Crawford, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Jamal Crawford. So we are going to tag team since Dr. Shepard, who is some of you all's professors at a board meeting tonight. And so I didn't want Dr. Hamilton to be all by her lonesome with two classes. So I said, screw it, let's go ahead and just combine all classes today.
Yes, and we did this in the spring semester, and we had such a good time doing it. So I'm really glad. And it's always good, too, to have two people, and you have more people to ask and talk to. So that works out good.
And I want all my folks on the call right now to see everybody else showing their face. So I'll deal with y'all later.
Yes, we usually show our faces. I don't know, we just do. That's just the way we do it. So anyway, that's good. All right. So we're glad you're here. So we are in week 7. So I'm going to try to get us into week 7 here and just take a quick peek at week 7. We did send this announcement. I'm going to go ahead and say it, and we'll say it again. But we did send this announcement earlier this week that that next week we are going to have a town hall 601 add-on licensed candidates. That was on October 17th. That's now going to be on Tuesday the 15th, and that will be in lieu of our regularly scheduled class next week. And Dr. Lamb will introduce evidence to the APTEL, which is the Analysis and Action Plan for Teacher Empowerment and Leadership. He will be sending us all a link, and so we'll be doing that Tuesday night. And then Dr. Stedman is going to host office hours on Thursday, the 17th, from 7 to 8 for anyone who needs assistance with their APSL. And he'll also be sending a link, so that will be helpful as well. So this is week 7, and so we're going to go to week 7, and we have lots of exciting things to talk about tonight. This was your reading for this evening. Here's an action plan you can look at, and some other things for you. And then remember that we want you working on your final draft of your APSL to prepare for submission. All your tasks 1 through 5 will go into one document into the Turnitin when you get permission to do that. And those will be due no later than this Sunday night. And we'll talk about that just a little bit later. So in week 7, we have lots of things we're going to talk about tonight, about evaluation of teachers. We're sort of preparing you for your work in your APTEL now. We're going to talk about policy manuals, professional development plans, action plans, marketing your school, teacher effectiveness, and the general statutes, and then, of course, the APSL final submission guide. So there are a lot of things there under week 7 for you to be able to access. So what we are going to do now is we are going to have a wonderful presentation from Dr. Crawford about teacher effectiveness and student scheduling.
Okay, so and I'll share my screen here in a second. So my folks and I have kind of touched on this the last couple of weeks. One of the things that I think the three of us, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Shepard, and myself, want to bring to you is not just the role of the professor that's coming at you with lots and lots of past experience. We want to come and bring you information from the life of a working, practicing, right now at 704, exhausted practitioner. Especially since, even if you focus on Dr. Hamilton and I, we both have the same position, but we live in two very, very, very different worlds. One of the things we want all of you to start thinking about as you look to make this transition is there's going to be a big jump for you in working with teachers and then making the jump to evaluating teachers and just supervising adults in general. People ask me all the time if kids are hard to deal with, and I tell them all the time, my gray hairs come from adults, not kids. And there is no one that will drive you battier than an adult that you have to look like this at. And typically when you're giving folks that look, your eye is twitching, and you're just thinking of all manner of, dear Lord, where did you come from and why did you do that? I expect to ask that question of middle school kids. I don't expect you to ask it of somebody with a master's degree. So that's kind of the big picture. Part of your job legally will be to evaluate teachers. We posted on week 7. So Robin, I'm gonna share my screen. Wow, I broke up the Bugs Money. My screen here for just a second. Okay, let me get the share. Okay. So if you look at your week 7 shell, there are all manner of information. One that I particularly want all of you to look at is North Carolina General Statute 115C. Share. Come on. Here we go. Okay. Can everyone see that? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the supervision of teachers, what your job is, what everyone else's job is, that lives in North Carolina General Statute 115-C. No, you cannot memorize all of it, but there are some aspects of this law and provision that you will come to know very, 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 very well, particularly as it relates to your job as a principal. So 115C deals with everything from uniform system of schools to public records law, power to provide here for school transportation programs, what the state board can do. You scroll on down some more. Talks about the superintendent of public instruction at the state level. You scroll on down some more, and it gives you the responsibility of training of board members. So you see, it encompasses everything involving North Carolina education. Let me skip down to where you are going to live, because this is what you, by the way, here's the charter school transportation and charter school facilities law, if you want to know what they're responsible for. Here is the Low Performing Schools Act statute, identification of low performing schools and continuing low performing charter schools. Talks about causes for non-renewal or termination disputes. So this is where you will live. Summer school is in here, pre-K is in here. So no, you're not going to memorize all of this. The part where you will learn to live and memorize, let me find 288. School teachers, and I think I passed, here we go. Teachers' conduct, salary credit for service in the armed forces. There's the class size law, if you missed that one a second ago. Teacher core, okay, here we are. All right, folks. As a principal, this is where you will live. This is what you are legally responsible for knowing. Right here, 115C-288. This is the job. This is where you will live. This is your legal responsibilities. And you see the first thing there is to grade and classify pupils. So if you ever get into a situation where you and a teacher may disagree about whether or not to promote or retain a student, well, folks, that's your job, not theirs, ultimately speaking. Now, we began having these conversations about possible retentions at my school right about mid-year, right after the second interim examinations. And, it's not uncommon for the list to start, this wide. And, by the time school ends, we whittle it down to, those handful of kids that we've really kind of agonized over. But ultimately speaking, there is a disagreement. That is your job right there, 115C-288. Talks about making accurate reports to the superintendent and to the board. For those of you who want to know why they spend so much time on micro political leadership, look at 115C 288C to improve instruction and community spirit. By the way, those little pesky fire drills that we're required to do every month, it's right there. I hate doing them. Yes, I know it's raining, but today's the 31st, so dang it, we got to get outside and get this done. Period. Yes, it's my fault we missed the first 30 days. Deal with it.
Excuse me, Dr. Crawford.
Yes.
Where did you say this is posted?
It is right here in week 7. I'm sure Dr. Hamilton, and we'll make sure Dr. Shepard posted it for his class as well. So the link is right there, and I just clicked on the link that I posted in week 7 and took me right here.
It's 115C-333.1.
Well, it's 115C is the 115C is the entire education statute. 115C-288 is powers and duties of principal. So fire drill, minimize fire hazards. Again, to discipline students and assign duties to teachers with regard to discipline, general well-being, and medical care of students. Yes, you may have a school nurse, but somebody gives the wrong kid the wrong medication in the nurse's office, you're going to get called out to the superintendent's office as well. By the way, this one is also going to mess around and get people in trouble if they don't start making sure they report certain acts to law enforcement and the superintendent. Notice that law enforcement came first. All right. When I was a principal in Charlotte, I specifically remember the chief of police at the time coming to a principal's meeting and letting us know that they were coming across way too many instances of situations that should have been reported that were not. And folks, that's a misdemeanor. Now, yes, they named the big ones, injuries, sexual assault, whatever have you. But the bottom line is, if you don't report something that should have been reported, that technically is a misdemeanor. You can be arrested. You may lose your license. My rule is better to report it and have the police tell you, well, no, we'll let the school handle that. And you say, okay, fine, then not report it, and it should have been. To make available school budgets and school improvement plans, again, right here in the law. To evaluate licensed employees and develop mandatory plans. So we'll circle back around to that one, but again, that's one of the most important things that you do. So again, I'm not going to read all of this. The entire law is there. Everything from the superintendent's oath and responsibility to board member training to the next section of the principles is teachers and national board certification law here. So it's all here for you to look at. And again, 288, you'll just come to know because you'll just kind of live in it for so long. But the entire statute is here. So any questions there? Okay, good. All right, so going back to this one here that talks about to evaluate licensed employees and develop mandatory improvement plans. So, and I asked this of my class last week. So for anybody else, would anybody care to take a guess on the percentage of teachers that are rated proficient or better nationwide? Not rhetorical. Anybody?
80%.
I hear 80. Anybody else?
40%.
40? What if I told you it was 98?
5 to 10%.
5 to 10? Oh, no. It's 98. Nationwide, 98% of teachers are rated proficient or better. Now, that's, I guess, good to know, but don't know if it's entirely accurate. If you get the chance to, wait a minute, let me find it. Another thing I posted for you to take a look at, again, you don't have to do it right now. I was curious to see had there been any studies done with regard to EVOS, and everybody here is familiar with EVOS, correct? Okay. with EVOS and the teacher evaluation instrument, particularly standards 3 and 4, which are the education, the teaching and learning standards. And I actually found one. And again, I'm not going to read. Come on, open up. What do you mean unknown time left? Just download, will you?
I think on that other document, if you scrolled up on that other one you just had up, I think it's a screenshot at the top, except it's not in color. But,
okay.
or might be, I don't know.
I got it. Okay, so I actually found this study, NC Evaluation on Teacher Effectiveness. And again, here in the resource questions, what is the relationship between teacher performance evaluation ratings and the annual EVOS student growth data? Now, you would like to think that, teachers that are rated, accomplished and distinguished also have high value-added data. And again, I'm not about to read 12 pages of data to you, but in just taking a quick shortcut to the findings, right here, our research showed that the vast majority of teacher performance evaluation scores were concentrated between proficient and just above 4 accomplished. But that ultimately speaking, there was no relationship between standards 3 and 4 on the teacher evaluation instrument and EVOS, which I found pretty interesting. Now, this particular study was done in 2012, so it's only 7 years old, but I can't imagine that the data will change that much. They even focused in on 6 counties where the relationship was a bit stronger. So you got Rowan, Salisbury, Moore, Burke, Craven, Buncombe, and Wilson. I found it interesting that none of the other large counties like Charlotte, Wake, Gaston, Cumberland. You're Dr. Hamilton, you are in Carteret, right?
New Hanover, we're the 12th largest.
Okay.
We're the 12th largest in the state.
Right. So none of the larger counties, with the exception of Buncombe and Asheville, are there. So I found this really interesting to look at. Again, it's a nice piece of research to read, but it also begs the question, some of it at the state level on, is EVOS really measuring what we think it measures, or are principals and assistant principals really rating the way the instrument, and I've been doing this long enough to be able to remember the TPAI, the TPAI-R. Anybody remember that one? Before we even had this particular instrument, but they found no relationship between the two. So I wanted to leave you with this, and that one of the most important things that you will do is the evaluation of teachers. And part of that, folks, is to learn to be honest about what you're seeing and to be able to give that feedback, whether you are an elementary teacher that gets his or her first job in a high school. And so now you're going to have to walk into a physics classroom and do an observation, or whether you were like me, who was a high school teacher. So, my degree is in history, so I am a curriculum specialist whose first job was in a middle school, where I had to learn to be a curriculum generalist. So I had to start learning a little about a lot. And it took me a while to kind of figure that out. I think I saw a couple of questions on the chat. If the chat would come up, I'll come back to it later. So let me see if I can get this to play for you, because it's only a minute long. But I think it really sums up this whole job of what we're doing as an administrator. So let me just share. Here we go. Okay, that was, okay.
Provisions in the contract that provided what we call the dance of the lemons. And the dance of the lemons.
Can anybody see that?
So when you have a system,
Yes.
you see good people do strange things. In Milwaukee, they call it the dance of the lemons. Here's how it works. Principals have their lemons. These are teachers who are chronically bad. They know it. The other teachers know it. The school knows it. But the union contract says you can't fire them. So at the end of the year, all the principals get together and they do the lemon dance. Fred gives Jack his lemons. Jack gives Sally his lemons. And Sally gives Greg her lemons. The lemon dance. Each principal hopes the teachers he's stuck with at the end of the dance are somehow better than the ones he's getting rid of. And that this year, he'll finally be able to take his lemons and make lemonade.
So I know that that was based in, in Milwaukee and a Union state, but folks, even here in North Carolina, you will be surprised at how difficult, you will be surprised at, well, a couple of things. One, how difficult it can be, especially if the teacher happens to be tenured. It is to gather the documentation to make that decision. And folks, it's hard. Let me just say this up front. It's hard. I've had to have that conversation in my career at least a dozen times, and it never gets easier, and it shouldn't. It absolutely shouldn't. You should be held to account as an administrator to making sure that not only are you giving honest feedback, but that you are giving people every opportunity to improve their craft and to become better. But at some point, you will have to make a decision as to, are you coaching or are you coaching out the door? And you will find that the number of people who just find that too much work is shocking. And so I encourage all of you to just get into the mindset of being able to give good, honest, constructive feedback to folks so that they can either improve their craft or, like I said, be in a position or put yourself in a position where at the end of the day, you just have to say, Ms. Hamilton, you're a nice person, but I've got kids to worry about. And that's where we are. So that's a lot in a short amount of time. Does anybody have any questions I can answer in the short run? Why is that not coming up?
Dr. Crawford, this is
Yes.
Shawana.
Hey, Shawana, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
I think you should share with the other students that app that you had us download a couple of weeks ago, the NC Standards app, when you go in and do observations.
Yes.
That saved my life yesterday.
Outstanding.
And today.
Good.
I wasn't sure what the teacher was teaching. I didn't think it was the correct standard. It actually was. The director in middle school actually did a walkthrough in the same room and was questioning that standard. And I was able to open the app and show her, no, the teacher's doing what they're supposed to.
Absolutely outstanding. So yes, I had mine download in the App Store or whatever platform you use. Just search for NC Essential Standards. There you go. Robin's got hers. When you'll know it, it'll be a gold background and a black outline of North Carolina. And what you will have at your fingertips without having to walk around with big, books all day is all the standards, K through 12, including many of the advanced math standards and the the science standards as well. This way, if you're in a classroom and you're trying to figure out if what a teacher is teaching is or is not on grade level, you just pull it right up, go to that standard, try to search for it. If you can't find it, that's a conversation that you need to have, because I shared with my class a couple of weeks ago, the number of, you'll be surprised how often you walk into a classroom and what you see being taught is not on grade level. And that actually begins as early as 3rd grade. So you walk into a 3rd grade classroom, and you'll see 1st and 2nd grade materials being taught. And you follow that through high school, not uncommon to walk into a senior class of 12th grade and see 9th grade instruction being done just because people aren't teaching to the correct standard. So Shawan, I'm glad that was able to help you. Again, it's just downloading the type in North Carolina Essential Standards, and you will have at your hip at all times the standards, so that when you're looking at going to any classroom, you'll be able to know whether or not somebody's teaching to the right standard. Any other questions? I want to thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, Dr. Hamilton.
Yes, I'm typing in the chat right now. Gold app with a black outline of the state of North Carolina. So there you go. You can find it. Yep. And it is very helpful to have that right there and at your disposal. So we want to share with you as well. So Dr. Crawford, you're in there. Will you go to that final submissions that Dr. Stedman shared? Let's go ahead and talk about that. So you are, upon doing your final submission for your APSEL. So that is the first of 6 that you are going to be finished with. And so we are very excited for you in this process. You have done such good work. And so Dr. Stedman created this document for us that we want to share with you to talk about, so what this is going to look at like before you submit it. So you're going to take all 5 of your tasks and you're going to make them into one document. You'll have one title page, one school profile, a comprehensive reference section at the end or next to the end, and your comprehensive appendices at the very end. So remember that the reference section precedes the appendices. And this needs to look like a document that you sat down and you created all at one time. So that these tasks were chunked for you so that your work was chunked in manageable chunks. But what this needs to look like when you get ready to turn this in is it needs to look like one document. So in Blackboard, you'll go to your APSEL task for review, and you'll place your completed APSEL document for instructor review under task 5. And many of you have already done that. And then we'll either send back the APSEL with instructions for editing, or we will tell you to submit it to your Turnitin process. Turnitin promotes academic integrity and deters plagiarism. So once you've turned it into Turnitin, then you will wait on directions from us to submit it for TaskStream. You do not ever submit to TaskStream until your professor says, okay, you can submit it to TaskStream for your final evaluation. Remember that you will not receive any reports from Turnitin. Do not try to generate any reports from Turnitin. We're the only one who has access to the report. So once you have cleared Turnitin, then you will submit it to TaskStream. And that will be another, after Turnitin, that'll be another directive to you. Once your APSEL has been evaluated, your score on your APSEL, the highest you can get is a 4.0. But you have to get a minimum of a 3.0. So right now, when we're looking at your APSEL, and we might sound like we're being pretty picky about every little thing, that's because we want you to get that 4, and we certainly want you to get the 3 because we don't want it sent back to you. But once you get the 3.0 to the 4.0, then you are successful with that APSEL, and so that will be awesome. So once you have your final score in task stream, you need to take a screenshot of that final score, and then you will upload that into your APSL final screenshot. So then you will have been finished with APSL. So as of today, a perfect score, if you have made a 100 on every single thing you have turned in, you should have 1,901 points. So there have been 19 assignments. That's a lot. There have been 19. And if you made 100 on everything, that would be 1,900. And then remember, you got that 1 point for doing your contacts in discussion board. So these are the things that should be completed in Blackboard at this point. So make sure that you're checking your grades to make sure you're not missing anything and that you have turned everything in. So task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, peer and instructor review. Now there were not peer reviews for task 5. Task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for evaluation. Task 1, 2, 3, 4, there he put 2 peer reviews. Your Zoom videos for your APSL task 1 and 2 that you all did, and then of course your contact information. So those are the things that you have. And just some other things that I have noticed along the way is to remember that everything has to be in APA format. You can look in that sample document that is in materials and review, materials and templates and materials. There's a sample in there that has examples of figures. The figure needs to be labeled at the top. The word figure in any title needs to be in a 10-point font, and you'll see how that lays out. When you have your appendix and your parentheses in your narrative, it'll say start parentheses, C, appendix, and then whatever letter goes there, close parentheses. Citations.
Don't forget to make sure that your reference section is alphabetized, because you're combining them. And so you may just add them all together and not think that they have to be alphabetized. So make sure you do that, and that the format is correct as well.
Thank you. I hadn't even thought about that. And remember back to that, the citations in your narrative have to match those references. So if you have a citation, you have to have the reference. If you have the reference, you have to have the citation. So go back with a fine-tooth comb, really and truly, and check it here to here, like literally touch it and make sure that it all cross-references. Make sure that your appendices are listed in order in your narrative, and then they're in the same matching order in your actual appendix section. You just want to make sure that you are cross-checking and double-checking every little thing, because the biggest reason these things come back oftentimes are APA reasons. Also, if Dr. Crawford, could you pull up the APSL helpful hints that Dr. Stedman shared a week or so ago from Template and Materials, please, and thank you.
Yes. APSL Template and Materials.
So you will leave all your directions in your APSL. So like the prompt directions, the instructions, the directions, all those things stay in there. And on that document that Dr. Stedman shared about helpful hints for your APSL, under task 5, it tells the directions, and I just want to show you that so that you can see. It tells directions about spacing on those. Okay.
This one?
Yes, go down to, so go back and cross-reference your APSL document, the entire document, with this helpful hints. And then if we can scroll on down to task 5. Task 4 was a long one.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
There we go. So task 5, you'll see that it says for the APSL, so we talked about all that. Scroll on down just a little bit more and let's see what we have. Right there in the green, all narrative work is to be double spaced throughout your evidence work. So a lot of them I have looked at, like in between sections, it might have more than a double space. So you need to go back and make sure that you don't have more than that. But then here's the important thing. You do your task, but then your prompt directives or anything that was in black already in your template, like your directives, your instructions, your prompts, whatever, you keep those single spaced just like they were in the template. I think a lot of people have gone through and highlighted their whole document and double spaced. You need to keep those single spaced. And
Take out the highlights.
do what?
Take out the yellow highlights.
Yes, thank you. A lot of you have forgotten that, especially on your title page, where it has like the yellow highlight, then it has the red text, and then it has what's in black space. You need to take those out from your title page too. So make sure all that's out. So you really want to go back and look over this with a fine-tooth comb, because we're looking, and like some folks have in their narrative, like when they're citing a reference, so if they said Crawford and Hamilton 2019 is what it should say, but some people are putting Crawford, comma, J and Hamilton, comma, R 2019. Well, that's the way it would look in the reference section, but not in the citations in your narrative. So go back and check and make sure that you don't have that going on. Just all those little nuances. And so like we might highlight that and say, oh, you don't put first initials in citations, but we might not highlight every single time you did it. So I think once we give you that suggestion, then that's your go to go do that and apply it across the board. So we may not be giving you those specific directions on every single example. So keep that in mind as well. So any questions about your APSL before we talk a little bit more about the case study? I don't see any chats. Nobody's unmuted. Okay. Dr. Crawford, did you go over the case study last week with your group?
I told them that was due, but you can go over it now.
Yeah, will you pull up the case study then from APSL template and materials? We went over it last week, but it certainly won't hurt to go over it again. So we'll have our case study information. So your case study is in there. There's questions at the bottom. You'll turn in, when you turn it in, you will turn in a one-page reflection along with a link to your Zoom team, where your Zoom is going to go over, team is going to go over this case study together. This case study needs to be a focused, professional, scholarly discussion. This is where we really see if, let's see.
Wrong one, sorry.
That's okay. That's where we'll really see that you have sort of taken your experiences from your internship, your experiences from your work in the APSL, and from your readings and your research to be able to apply what you have learned. And so in your Blackboard, under APSL template and materials, I think, or it might just be under case study.
That's where I was.
Do you see it?
That's APTEL. Yeah, I'll find it. I promise. I'll get it.
It's all right. And when you're uploading things, please still just be mindful of the APSL versus the APTEL. It's so easy to accidentally slip that into the wrong place. So stay focused on that as well, and the importance of being able to put that in the right place. And I'll see if I can find those materials. If I could just.
Case study, but it says APTEL, not app. Well, wait a minute. Maybe that's a typo.
Dr. Hamilton,
Yes.
there's a link on the left side of Blackboard that says case study materials.
I got it.
I think it's a typo because case study 2 says APTEL, but that's not right. So.
Yeah, this is case study 1.
Oh, 1. Okay.
We did that other thing, but yeah, you're thinking about the summer. But yeah, so do you see case study 1 up there?
Yep.
And then you see the directions above there?
Yes.
Go to those directions if you don't
Gotcha.
mind. So here we go.
All right, and bam.
There it is. So yes, so you're going to read the case study. That is the next link. Uh-oh, we lost you.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, that's the next link beneath there. So you'll read your case study, and you're going to write a 1-paragraph response for each of the, I think it's 4 questions at the bottom. So you're going to write a response. And then your Zoom master will send out the link and schedule the Zoom session. And then each member shares their responses, and the group then engages in a discussion of the responses. Group consensus is not necessary. Then each candidate's going to write a 1-page reflective summary, and it's going to be 2 parts. So it's going to be a summary of the overview of the relevant points of the case, and then that's the first part, like the first half of your page, and then the second half of your page is going to be a reflective summary of the takeaways from your discussion with your Zoom team. And so you'll take this 1-page summary along with the link to your Zoom video, and that's what you will upload for your grade for the case study. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
Now, it's probably a dumb question, but when you say it's a 1-page but 2-part summary, so is it like 1 page for the summary of the case study and 1 page for the Zoom session, or just one that encompasses both parts?
1 total page.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And you do not have to cite sources. We've had people ask that before, and you do not have to cite sources for your case study. So you don't have to do that. So just know that. And that will be due week 8. So you still have a little bit of time. So that's your APSEL that you're going to finish up, and then your Zoom team for week 8. So any questions about those 2 things? All right, so Dr. Crawford, while you are driving the bus, if you want to go ahead and pull up that PowerPoint about marketing your school. So we're going to talk a little about marketing your school. I don't know what it's like where you all live, but I can only assume it's about the same. And it seems like every news agency and social media platform, they want attention, and the best way to get that is to sensationalize something that is not necessarily true. And so we really have to create our own positive stories, send out our own good news, market our schools. No one is going to market them for you. You have to have a consistent message. If you don't have that consistent message, yeah, you can just go ahead and go on down to the slide number 2. Thank you. If you don't have a consistent message, then it's not going to stick. So if I said to you, it's my pleasure to serve you, you would think that you are at the Chick-fil-A. But if you go through Hardee's or McDonald's or Arby's, you are not going to necessarily hear that consistent message. So that's why you need something that sticks in people's heads. You need to come up with a slogan or a motto or a marketing speech, elevator speech that is memorable so that everybody in your building knows it. They need to have a part in creating it. And that when someone asks them about their school, they're all sending a unified message. And when you send that unified message, then people remember it. And that's what sticks in their heads. And trust me, the people that are telling about your school, it's not you. It is the front desk receptionist. That person is really the face of your school, because that's the person answering your phone, talking to everybody who calls in. That's the person greeting all the guests that come in the front door. That is the face of your school. Your custodians who are working in the cafeteria and are talking to all the parents who are there having lunch with their children. These are the people that are the faces of your school. Your teachers who are having parent conferences, one-on-one with parents. Whoever takes people on tours of your school, if y'all do school tours like we do. But if you don't create your own message, then someone else will. So we need to market our schools and have create these elevator speeches so that we can send out that common language and that common message to people that we have crafted and that we want to send out. And if you have that common message and that common language crafted and embedded in your school's message, then when the bad news does come along, people have in their minds already attached the good news that you have created, and then that makes them more supportive of you when bad news comes out, and that makes them less likely to believe bad news when it does come out. So Dr. Crawford, can you go on down? Maybe let's see what slide number 5 says. Yes, so an elevator, and let's go back up to maybe 6. That'll be good. So the elements of an elevator speech would be a hook, like what's a statement of who we are, something maybe we do for students or parents, what makes us unique, what makes us different from the school across town, the school down the street, what benefits do we provide to our community. Schools are a huge part of our community. We are an integral part of that community, and we make up a big part of the community. And so we are providing the community a benefit, and we need to let the community know what that benefit is. They depend on us when there is a crisis in the community. They will come to you as the principal. I have always said, being the principal is like being the preacher. They come to you and from the community and want you to fix what is wrong. They bring the community.
I need childcare. I don't have, I've already got, just today, I got 4 requests for help for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. I had a parent who had just moved here. This was years ago, but they had just moved here and only been here 3 or 4 months. And she walked in and said, and her husband was a doctor, my husband just committed suicide. I'm here to get the children. Now, that's a tough walk to go pick up those children because you know you're changing their lives. And I can't tell you how many parents from that neighborhood came to my office for counsel, for help, help make this right. You're just like the church and the preacher in the community. You're just the school and the principal. They said I hope people don't treat the preacher like they treat principals sometimes. That's all I'll say. Let's just hope not. Let them know in your speech how you can help, and then conclude with some kind of a memorable statement. Let's go on down to slide 7. I might have a little elevator speech video in there. We'll see if it'll play. I don't know if it will or not. Is there a link? Nope.
There is not.
Okay, then I don't know where my link is. So that's okay. It's okay. It's just a little elevator speech, but it's just about, you just want it to be a short, memorable message, a consistent message about your school that you could tell that takes no longer than the ride of an elevator, which is why it's called an elevator speech. And then that way, people will know and have that message about your school. And then when they think about your school, just like when we think about Chick-fil-A, we think about, it's my pleasure to serve you. And it will also stick like a sore thumb if somebody's not following that message, that consistent message that you've ingrained in people's minds. If you ever go to Chick-fil-A and you go through the drive-thru and the person doesn't say, it'll be my pleasure to serve you at the window, you're thinking, oh, this person didn't pass their training. And so it sticks out like a sore thumb to people when they know that that's your message and they know who you are. And it is important for people to know who you are and know what that message is, because when people want to share false messages about you or about your school, then that sticks out with them. And people who know you and they know better. And so it's important that you explicitly don't just assume that people are going to know. You need to be explicit in sending out your message so that don't leave it up to chance. It's too important to leave to chance. So we talked about next Tuesday, the 17th, Dr. Lamb will be talking to you about your APTEL. And then, so we will not have class. Will be Dr. Lamb introducing the APTEL. And then on Tuesday the 15th, then Thursday the 17th, Dr. Stedman will have a session for anyone who wants to come on and ask questions about their APTEL. So your case studies are due for week 8, on the week 8, and then the 13th, of course, this Sunday, your APSOL and everything is due. Dr. Crawford, do you have anything else?
Hang in there, fall break is around the corner, and for many of us, the first 9 weeks. So I promise you, Well, no, it doesn't get better, but it gets easier to deal with.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. All right. Anybody have? I'm on fall break this week. Good for you. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yes.
And of course, mine know, always reach out to me if you need anything between now and next week.
Same thing. Thank you for allowing us to combine tonight. It has been a pleasure getting to work with you tonight, Dr. Crawford.
What do the kids say? For those of you that have Dr. Shepard, make sure we get a good report, please.
Yes, please.
But as always, Dr. Hamilton, good working with you as well. And for mine that I don't see, I will call you out next week. And good to see everybody else for the first time as well.
Sounds good. All right. You all, do we have another chat? Nope, that's it. All right. You all have a great evening. Thank you for choosing Gardner Webb. Thank you for working with us. It is our pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you Tuesday night with Dr. Lamb. Have a great evening.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.